Hello people in the YouTube world. So the other month, maybe 3 months ago, I had an accident, went into a gun shop and was thinking about buying a 223. I was thinking about buying a cheap 223 because wheeling and dealing I ended up with some cheap Wolf ammunition, and I thought I'll buy a cheap 223 and I'll use it on pigs. I was also going on Cleavers too much and I saw they had cheap 223 for about $550 per thousand. I thought, 50 cents a shot would be better than 308 for $1 a shot, which I reload for $1 a shot. But things went badly and I ended up with this. This is the Taipan Light. It's made by Southern Cross Small Arms and it's a pump action 223. So my idea of buying a $500 or $600 223 quickly grew to a $2,000 223, and this followed me home. So it wasn't my fault at all. So basically I'll just run you through what you can expect to get in the box and what the rifle's like on a base, and then I'll run you through my experience. So basically the rifle itself will not come with this, it'll come with a standard, you'll see it on the internet, a standard slide, standard pump action. I've just made this on the 3, it's just a angled foregrip. It'll come with two 10-shot Generation 3 P-Mags. They're good magazines. My deal that I got at the time at the gun shop, for $2,200 you got the gun and the scope. You didn't get rings. I originally put on cheap eBay rings and I went back and bought other rings. Now keep in mind, if you're buying rings for this gun, you're going to need to buy slightly higher than standard rings because the action doesn't slope away like a standard rifle. So buy higher rings. In fact, I think even higher than this, again, maybe as high as you can go. So you probably find them on an AR-15-esque site to get rings that suit ARs, because it is basically, well, everyone who's watching this knows what this is made to look like. So I'll just go through. The rifle itself is about, with the scope on it, no ammunition in the magazine, you're looking at about 4 kilograms. Now it's not a heavy gun, like I'm holding this one-handed, it's not a struggle at all. That's a good. It feels good in the hands. It doesn't feel too heavy. I've walked a couple swamps with it. After walking with it for maybe half the day, like any 4 kilos on your back, it starts to get a little bit heavy, and it's got a few edges on it which might jag you, but it's nothing terrible to walk around with it in the swamps all day. It's comfortable. Anything with a pistol grip I've found, especially if you put a sling on it, it's a comfortable thing to walk around with. Another good point that comes with this gun is you get QD sling mounts built into the gun. On the fore end, I just bought a cheap, see if I can get it on camera, a cheap eBay attachment for the M-locks under here, and so I just attached my sling, 2-point sling, to this. I went and bought one of those tactical, thinking I'll be cool and tactical 1-point slings. Unless you want the rifle pointing at your feet all day, it's not really a good thing, because it seems like when you have it, the single point sling, so it goes around your shoulder and hangs down, the gun's got a tendency to want to swing towards your feet, so I went away from that, went back to a 2-position sling. Now, let's go over the trigger. This trigger, I've weighed it, it's about 4.5 to 5 pounds. When I first got it, before I shot it all, it was even over 5 pounds. As I've shot it, it's broken itself in slightly. It's actually a very nice trigger because it doesn't have a lot of creep or take up, and it breaks really cleanly. So you could easily be fooled in thinking it's a 3-pound, 4-pound trigger. I'd like to see it lighter, and I'll go through, I've got a little bit of information on that. But it's not a bad trigger, and actually for a trigger in the field, it's probably about right if you're going to be stumbling around the swamps with it. Now the action itself, it's just simple forward to shoot. That would have loaded the chamber, you'd pull the trigger, I've already cleared this gun, and then it would slide back, eject, and next round folds in as you go forward. If you don't shoot, so if you go forward, you'd have to push this lever down and it would eject the round that way. There's a new model called the Taipan X. They've done away with this lever and they've gone with a spring assist forward. So I believe that X will hold it in battery just by the spring instead of this lever. The reason is, if you look at the forums, if you look at the internet, a few people have had this lever break. So they've gone away from that. When I first got the gun, I had a really good look at it. I looked inside of it, everything looked well made. There was no bits and pieces of crud in it like other guns I've had. I went to the gun range, and through their manual, which I don't have on me, comes with a really detailed manual. It goes through a really detailed way of how they want you to clean this gun as you're breaking in the barrel. It's the most detailed explanation I've ever seen of how to break in a barrel. I did it. took about 2.5 hours, but I'm really lucky. My accuracy came through, and I'll show you my accuracy in a minute. So when you buy the gun, you'll read this manual. The manual it feels like an occupational health and safety manual. It's got everything in it that it says that you to tell someone not to do with a gun is in there. So I'm guessing they don't want to be sued, which building a gun in Australia would be a very hard thing. Okay, standard AR-15 pistol grip, adjustable cheek riser, adjustable stock pads. I'm about 5'11". I've got all 5 spaces in this, and it suits my length of pull really well. And then when you go on the forward stroke, it's perfect for me. So you'll have to just suit that for yourself. If you found it was too short, these would be a very easy thing to just knock up out of a bit of plastic or Teflon you had lying around your shed. This riser itself, it can go up about another 0.5 centimetre, but it's almost at full length there. So the body itself's all alley, comes Cerakoted. I know aluminium and Cerakote aren't the best combination, and a few people have complained about tiny scratches they're getting here, and the new model have built a Teflon or a nylon brass deflector in. In my mind, I sort of treat guns, especially guns I take in the field, like tools. I'm not worried about a chip of paint, and really, I've never worried about a chip of paint on any of my hammers or screwdrivers or pliers, so I'm not as concerned about this with chips of paint. So I'll show you some footage of me shooting it now, and I'll come back to you. I thought I was really organised. Got out here and forgot all my magazines. Lucky the guy who runs the range had one for me. So I'll be using 20 round mags, but all the same thing really. All right. Okay, so I took the gun to the gun range. I'll show you. You've seen the footage of me shooting it and cleaning it. I put it through a few different types of ammunitions. I put it through all the standard ammunitions you can get from off the shelf at a gun shop. So there was nothing exotic that I put through it. It was all fairly standard. So I put through 55 grain Hornady VMAX, 55 grain ADI Game King, Federal Power Shocks, 55 grain PPU, 69 grain Winchester Maxes, 55 grain Winchester White Box. So I used a whole spectrum of ammo and 55 grain Wolf ammunition. Okay, accuracy wise, the best was Federal. I got that down to a group. The best group I got of the day was about 4 shots touching, so it's 4 shots under an inch. I do believe that if this gun had a lighter trigger and a better scope, you could improve on that. But with this combination of this scope and this trigger, that's a fairly good group. With the ADI, you're probably seeing 1.5 inch-ish. And with the Winchester Max, which is this stuff here, about 1 inch consistently. The problem with that ammunition is, because it's such a big, heavy, oh not big heavy, it's a heavier cartridge, 69 grain, it's got a very sharp tip on it, and the way this feed ramp works in here, which I won't be able to show you, I can hardly see it myself, it hits under the feed ramp and catches, it doesn't slide up very well. That could just be the magazine issue. I know that happened less with the Generation 3 PMags that came with the gun than it did with the Gen 2 30 rounder I have, which someone would have prepared earlier, but I haven't. Oh, here it is. So this is a Gen 2. It had a bit more trouble with this as a magazine. Even getting into the gun slightly different. So it likes Gen 3 magazines, if you can keep that in mind. Where did things go wrong? I quickly learnt that it does not like the Wolf ammunition. I was getting failures to fire, probably I'll say 3 out of 6, 3 out of 7 was a light primer strike. I was also getting failures to extract, probably I'll say 3 out of 10. And then when I went to ADI, 1 in 8, 1 in 9 light primer strikes, and probably 1 in 10, maybe even higher, failures to extract. So that was the issue I faced. Now I contacted my dealer, he contacted the rep, they contacted Southern Cross Small Arms. That kicked around for a while. I tried to contact them myself, and eventually they actually got a phone number put on Facebook, which you can call them yourself. At that point is when I set the gun off to get looked at by them. They put a longer firing pin in the gun, and they also said they put a new bolt in the gun. They didn't change anything else, and they sent it back to me. I'm in Darwin. That process took about a month and a week, maybe 5 weeks. So the turnaround was good. The information I got from Southern Cross Small Arms was good. They were really willing to help. Honestly, good service from an Australian company. Now from there, I've taken it back to the range, and I'll show you that footage now.
Is that a Scorpion?
What?
Scorpion is what kind of gun's that?
It's called a Taipan.
Oh, Taipan, yeah. Is that what was happening before you sent it back?
Yeah, but it wasn't firing them before.
Getting a permit through, still.
Because mine was in, that paper that Justin just filled out. So as soon as that crossed his table, he's just like I'll have my paper. Because that's paper on for the gun, thinking I could get it. And it was like, nah.
I bought my gun the same time as you bought yours. It's been 3 months waiting for that piece of paper. In case it still isn't done.
What am I doing?
Okay, so the footage you just saw is after I got the gun back after 5 weeks of being away, getting repaired by Southern Cross Small Arms. Basically, the Wolf ammunition now all fires. So the hard primers in Wolf now go off with the longer firing pin. I had probably 2 or 3 out of 20 failures to extract, and then when I swapped over to the ADI stuff, it's either ADI or Winchester stuff, I had one primer that took a third hit to go off. So that may have been a hard primer. When you compare that the Wolf was going off and that one wasn't, it might have been something just with that one primer. It might have been old ammunition. So they've fixed the firing pin issue. The extraction issue is only with Wolf ammunition. I didn't have it go off again with the Winchester or the ADI or the brass, whatever I was using. So it just might be that the steel case stuff is not a very good spec, or it might have some sort of Russian Cosmoline residue on it, I'm not sure. So Wolf ammunition will now become range ammunition, and I'll use the good stuff in the field. Okay, final thoughts, final rant, final whatever you want to call it. I watch a lot of YouTube, just working out which products to buy. That's the point of my videos. I'm just trying to help the community, trying to help someone save $1 here and there. So you've seen the problems I had with the gun, you've seen the successes I've had with the gun, and the question remains, would you buy one, should you buy one? So if I walked into the shop 3-4 months ago, whatever it was, and Crystal Ball told me all the problems I would have with this gun, would I still buy it? Yes, this gun suits me very, very well. But the caveat to that is, does this gun suit everybody? I don't believe it would. Now, keep in mind, there's a 5-year warranty on this gun, so there's a caveat to the caveat. So, I'm honest with myself, I'll be honest with you. I do a lot more pistol shooting than I do rifle shooting. Now, I'll probably shoot 40 rounds in practice a month. I've got this Wolf ammo to practice with, and I'll probably go walking the swamps and I might shoot 20 more, or I might do a big trip. So I'll say on average I'll put 600 rounds through this gun a year. This gun's actually an aluminium body. It's held together by M4 nuts that go into the aluminium. There's no metal block in here to support it. I think this gun will last me, I've got hair in my mouth. this gun will last me a really long time. If you're a really heavy user, I don't think this gun will have the same lifetime. So it's got steel parts inside, the bolt steel, the rail that runs the bolt steel, it's all sitting against aluminium. The rails inside are aluminium. So a lot of the wear parts are alley. So if you're doing really high round counts, I think the alley might wear out. But there's a 5-year warranty and it's Australian based. So as long as the company stays open, you'll be covered. So, got this hair in my mouth. Anyway, so if you wear this gun out in 5 years, they'll probably give you another one. Be honest with yourself. Do you need the gun for what you're doing? Will it suit what you're doing? Would I take this as the only gun out of the shop and take it on a trip of a lifetime? No. I would certainly make sure it doesn't have any hiccups before taking it on a trip. I always take 2 guns on trips anyway, big trips, just because I think you should have a backup. We should all own a few guns. So there's that. The other caveat to this is, or the other point I want to make is, this is Australian made, right? This is all my money in this gun. I didn't get paid to say nice things like a certain four-wheel drive company or four-wheel drive YouTube channel. This is all my money and I'm still saying nice things. You know, money's not easy to come by for me. I've got a family, I've got kids, I've got mortgage, I've got cars, I've got other hobbies. So putting I'm probably at $2,500 into this gun right now is a big deal for me. But I'd still put the money in. I think we should support Australians. There's been a few hiccups with the first few models, but this is their first gun that they've made. Like, there's been gun companies in America that have been around for 80 years that still have production control problems. This is the first gun they've made. It's a unique gun. It's a very Australian gun to get around and suit within our gun laws. They've somehow managed to make it in the political environment that wants to do everything they can to destroy guns in Australia. So they've made a gun in the world's biggest nanny state, and the gun is awesome. The gun is just for us. So I think we should support them. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the future. I hope they do a really good accessory range for these sort of things. But yeah, keep in mind, buy it for you, buy it so it suits your needs. Try to try one out beforehand, and I think you'll be happy. I'm really happy. I'm glad I bought one.